the, up to 40. Oh,
Change to this.
She done anything with that paper?
No.
Started work, there was already 40. I ain't sure what I'm gonna do with it yet. Those parts for that thing expensive. I got a buddy of mine that Fort Wayne got so. See what he's going to. They told what year is that?
I got cancer.
What, 72?
So that didn't
I would look for talk about this parking in the backyard and running. Guest house. It's for one family comes from Ohio, so.
do a little money, fix fence here and there and get Lisa some. It's great. My mom's a rigger. Ain't heard yet. For sure.
Okay, yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Next
The bank.
No, that's.
I didn't say it was remind her.
Yeah, has.
Get your nose from.
Right, yeah.
Mine can't make because get to his mom. In here. Right, that's falser. You get old guy.
Fell down on the drumsticks.
She was very, well, you did have breakfast with him.
So done.
Yeah.
Even.
There's one on the field now.
No, yeah. Old Charlie football major junior. He's killed a car.
Probably got something for the bottom of those. I think it'd be the last one, but he thought that, I mean, I only cares.
That one. 600. On that street. And then there was one up on Waterloo Road for years.
They won't let people go stuff on top of the street. They only have that inch on the commercial, and they gave the last 1,000 feet of it to UCC, and the UCC's like, no, like 4 or 5 feet of it. So it has 2 sections. So the motivation of it was. That was a Trump. They know all that, everybody, but it's not like. They were getting 100 footers in the end of the hose line. Use 50 footers primarily, but they had 100 footers.
I can't believe it, can't really happy about that.
Then going down the road. Either way, 5 footers.
We did on Maple Street.
That's what, that's what, so we've got 1,500 feet. I think. Previous, or right, intelligent people that build the way. Blocks.
Yeah, build a house. Shoot.
Yeah.
Start on this. We should.
So we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. This is basically just a budget hearing for everybody to look over budget for the township, and then open up for any comments. I think we're just going to go ahead and read that. Ken will read that, and then we'll open up for comments.
Okay, for the 2026 Washington Township budget, we have $1,612 budgeted from our rainy day fund. Then our general fund is $26,900. Then our township assistance fund, we budgeted $4,200. Fire and EMS, we have $43,800 is budgeted. In the cumulative fire fund, out of that, we have $85,000 budgeted. That's the budget that the DL Jeff's DLGFs was presented to, that's what all the information was given to them. And they said there should be no reason that budget will not be approved by the state. And so that's what budget we'll be working with next year. Now, any comments from the floor?
The fire department has a question, which kind of leads back to, if you don't mind. The previous discussions of, we obviously have some equipment that is in need of repair and or replacement. We've had some discussions. I've done everything I can to the best of my ability to get the information to everybody as far as how to proceed forward with repairs. We're in the process of the Band-Aid repair on the tanker, which will make it just the tanker only, which doesn't fit very well with the rest of the county. The rest of the county, every tanker has a pump on it. So like the other day when we had the brush fire, we had to try to marry the two engines together and we only get about probably an additional 400 or 500 gallons. And the other tanker was a little bit more delayed getting here, being Cambridge City, not by any fault of their own, just where personnel were and people, they had a bunch of them at the golf course, at a golf outing, and we had the grass fire right next door to the golf outing. So they delayed the golf outing, drive to Cambridge, get a tanker, come back. So the tanker being down, especially with the oncoming hydrant project, is a concern. And the longevity of it being a gas motor, 34-year-old truck that hasn't been the best maintained. And then we have the engine that I sent out the quotes to get 3 quotes. I need to spend more money to be able to haul it around. But I was at least able to get the other shops labor costs, which I emailed out and followed up with a couple times. And just trying to get some movement on getting some trucks repaired for the best protection for both the district or the township, excuse me, and the town, the village, town, city, whatever you call it, township and the town. In the process of that, I've had a couple meetings and conversations with Matthew Kane in dispatch, which other people did, which was fine. They had Freedom of Information Acts filed to check our response times and everything, which has actually dropped dramatically over the last 4 years in town. The human factor isn't factored into those. Ours are actually better than some of the rest of them in the county, but the human factor of when and where we are, and it's very skewed by time of call to the time of the first person on scene, doesn't mean necessarily it was a fire truck on scene. So that's something to think about. But Cambridge City is now our mutual aid with Centerville automatically. Bentonville has access to our CAD system, so they're automatically alerted and will just self-initiate this way until the county revisits putting 4 on the department, 4 on a call for structure fire response, which was held up by one department in the entire county, which I think in all of these conversations, we've gotten a lot of headway on, and I think it's going to get brought up at the next county 911 meeting, which won't be until October. So I have to think about what month we're in. But Cambridge City, as soon as Matthew Kane changes all the stuff in programming, they will be responding. We've been responding very well together. They've been able to load up on some more people. We've been able to load up on some more people. Worked very well. Last week we had 3 fires in 2 days together. We're starting to build that bridge, refix that bridge. But 30 years of damage doesn't get fixed overnight. And we're having the same problem with our trucks. And we weren't included in any budget conversations. We're having very limited conversations and contact with half of our managing agencies, being township. And we're here to fix that and want to progress going forward and be a good partner and a good service provider for both the township people and the town altogether. It doesn't matter if your address says Milton, Bentonville, Cambridge City, Connorsville, we service them all. And I am very passionate and I care very deeply about the people that we protect, because I also do this full time. And I don't want it on my head one night that we didn't do our best or we didn't make the best call. And right now, our biggest concern is having operational equipment and water to do that job. And that's affected greatly by our options and budgets. We had a discussion and talked about a new tanker, found a decent fit because we are very limited to what we can purchase that will fit in our station due to previous construction, which I have no I can't change the size of the building. And we're not getting much traction there. I have found a couple other possible replacements, but some people at the previous meeting didn't think apparatus costs had gone up as high as they have. I've sent out as much research as I can. I have a little more here explaining. I mean, just even the other day, there was an open Senate hearing in Washington DC about a lot of the apparatus manufacturers colluding. There's only 3 companies, and out of the 9 companies are all under one group, which is Red Group. I don't like that. I think it's crap. I don't have anything I can do with that. I don't want a brand new 2025 truck. I think that would be mismanaging our funds, but unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to find a truck for much less than 120 to 150,000 that would serve our needs going forward. You know, I still like the plan of fixing the tanker, fixing engine 4, trying to sell those, or maybe even the tanker, we wouldn't get enough out of it. It might just be easier to donate it to somebody and get the tax write-off or the credit. I don't know what that credit was like, but and still look at purchasing another 2,500-ish gallon tanker engine. We've proven it in 3 days that we need water on the street, and we need the town and the township's help to be able to do that. And I don't know how to fix the budget without standing here saying with town people to have to push back a little. And I push back because the protection of everybody that's in this room and on TV or wherever is number one to us. I don't want the shiniest, brightest truck. I don't want the flashy stuff. I want us to be able to service the patients and the customers when they need. And that's what you are, as customers. You're all paying customers. We have options that we could look at down the road of tax levies to be able to increase budgets. I know SB1 has been a royal pain in the rear for everybody. It's just as much of a pain in the rear for us because this town does it this way, that town does it this way. The county's not talking to us either. County has no idea what they're doing with SB1 either. The state doesn't have any idea. I spent 10 days at a fire academy, all for fire chiefs, and 4 out of those 10 days was about SB1, and even they'll say, we have no idea. The state treasurer stood right there and said, we have a lot of road work, but a lot's gonna change this legislature. So nobody really knows. What we do know though, is we have trucks that we need to get either fixed or replaced. And we're not doing a very good job communicating, probably all around. I'll own some of that, but I'm here tonight to own that and want to move forward. I'm not a political person. I don't want to be a political person. I want to be a person that can be reliable and provide the assistance needed when needed. That's all.
Well, on the budget, on being included on the budget, you should have came to me back the 1st of June. Because I start in June with DLGF having to submit paperwork. And when you come to me the end of July, wanting to meet the 1st week of June, I already have to have numbers into the DLGF.
I contacted you all the way back in May and we never just were able to make a meeting.
And that. So, that's, like I said, I need to know stuff, like I said, the 1st of June before I can start doing anything. And I did talk to my DLGF representative when we had our meeting, because we had talked about an excess levy, which that won't happen this year, but next year I'm going to pursue that. But is what he said, don't be surprised if it's denied. He said, because Washington Township has not shown any growth in many years. And without showing, he says, if there would have been, if somebody would have developed a housing addition in Washington Township somewhere that would have increased the population, those kind of growths like that, then they start looking at being able to. But he said, there's a very good chance that we can apply for this and it will get denied. But that's something we'll cross next year when I file for that. Like I said, we budgeted more out of our cumulative fund this year than we ever have. This is for the 2026 budget and that. So we are working at trying to help and get some stuff taken care of, but things don't happen overnight with budgeting. Money, I can't just, when we put a budget together, and that's the money I have to work with for the year. I can't just go pull money out of the air to fix things. And that. But we are working at, and that's why the budget is what it is, you know, I even increased our fire fund some. You know, just trying to come up with some more money to help out, and so we can get some of this stuff taken care of.
What are we supposed to do in the meantime? Have no fire department? Depend on someone else? You know, we got one down or two down. It may be your grandkids if you got any, it may be mine. That I gotta worry about Cambridge or Dublin or Centerville to respond to my house. I mean, what do we do? You tell me.
Like I said, we've discussed some between our group on what can we do this year yet, and we've not made a decision on that yet.
Yeah, we're down. Now. Larry and I's got better than 50 years dedicated to that fire department. And I ain't gonna sit here and watch it go down the hill if we can get something done. I mean,
And I think part of the issue, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, but there has been a deterioration for a while as far as maintenance. And it doesn't get fixed overnight.
you're right.
And that part, I think, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong again. I think that's our struggle here. We need to try to put forth a plan, a long-term vision if we can. Try to get as much help as we can now, but not everything's gonna be fixed immediately.
Well, I understand that. We're asking for your help to get something done, you know.
Even just a loaner vehicle until things get fixed.
Not really loaner fire trucks. I mean, the original plan that. I don't know why we never went back to look or discuss about the original plan. Again, the biggest complaint I have, the only complaint I really have is, I don't have a complaint with thinking about stuff and going through stuff. It's zero communication. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. If engine two broke down right now, then what are we doing? And I can send an email like I have been, and I get nothing. I get red messages. I've tried calling people very politely, just what can I do? What can I do to give you more information? I have letters of recommendation from every fire department in the immediate county except for one. I have what we've accomplished this year. And again, we've turned a lot around, but we're not perfect. But the option of, I mean, there's ways that, I mean, I know plenty of townships that have dumped the Coombe Fire Fund into buying an apparatus. I'm not saying we need to buy a new one, but we looked at financing. We came up with ideas and numbers to get a new engine tanker and get rid of 2 headaches for one more updated truck, excuse me. And again, I've just gotten no response.
And that was kind of gonna be, my tag along with Donnie. You guys, we're sitting here developing a plan to help, but at the same time, with limited communication with the fire department, and I don't mean this negatively, but it takes the fire department and the fire department's administration to really help you guys foresee what would benefit us, what would benefit the citizens, what would help us with better ISO ratings to decrease, everybody in this room, the homeowner's insurance, what could help take that down, because there is a cost to fighting fire and having a fire department here. But when things are budgeted accurately, we have the things that we need, the repairs are done accurately and appropriately and stuff like that, we can actually, even though there is a cost associated with that, save the citizen money on the backside. And most citizens don't understand that concept. And it's not, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that when, like Matt and I both, I'm sitting on 28 years of public service, a lot of it on the career side as well. And, with that being said, there are times that budget money needs to be spent here, but it benefits and saves money on the citizen side in the long run. But it takes some time to get there, and it's going to take communication between you guys, the entire board, to come down and see what we need and talk to us about our needs and what we need to look at next, and plan, like a 5-year plan. We can't put that together if there's zero communication. We just can't do that. And you've got probably one of the most proactive administrations in that fire department right now that you've ever had. 3 pages worth of accomplishments over the last 9 months. And we're not asking for much, just the ability to talk back and forth amongst each other.
I heard you say something a while ago about communication. Do you guys, as a board, not communicate with the fire department as a whole? Do you guys not sit down and get your heads together and say, well, what do you need as a fire department? Have we got something that we need as a fire department? The 80-some thousand that you said that you've got, is that fire department money alone?
It's in the township's cumulative fire fund. It's like a savings account to purchase things.
But what I'm saying is that for fire department, or does it get spent for other
No,
stuff?
it's cumulative fire.
Okay.
That's all it's for.
It's a restricted fund, Larry. It cannot be
Okay,
spent on anything but fire.
If we've got something that needs fixed and we don't have the allotted amount of money to fix that with, can the board look at getting grant money to do the rest of it with, or all of it with, or whatever, or however?
So it's not a grant, they would have to petition for an early settlement or an early withdrawal to offset for certain aspects.
Well, what I'm
Major
looking
building
at,
repairs, truck repairs, truck
there's
purchase.
grant money being handed out for everything that I know of, anything and everything, grant money. It's being done with grant money. Well, can we not get grant money to do what we need, that needs to be done? If we, as a small town, don't have the money, can we not get the grant money?
You'd have to them on the
Well,
town.
now,
basis.
he's not, you guys.
This is the township. I
Yeah,
can't,
well, that's what I'm
and
saying.
that's the thing.
Yeah,
There are, grants they could be a tricky thing. A lot of grants aren't out there to fix equipment. Grants are out there to purchase.
well, that's
And
what-
anybody
towards
knows right
purchasing.
now are very difficult because the current presidential administration keeps threatening to take away
yeah.
FEMA and some of the other, and those are the
Well, I'm
only,
looking
but like
at
by
it.
now, usually,
And see,
usually
you know,
we've gotten it.
when I said we budgeted 85,000 in the cumulative fund.
Yeah.
50,000 of that is for purchase of new equipment.
Okay,
And that's this, and seeing that's what this is what's gonna come to. The town will have to decide how much they can contribute
well, yeah.
to a new tanker. And then that's the money that they'll have to work with to find,
Well,
because, you know, we discussed the township will not take a loan out and go in debt, because it's very easily, within 5 years, there will be no township government again. The state may do away with it. They've been working on it for years, and they are starting to do things that,
okay, what I'm looking at though is the town and township. You're reliable for so much and they are reliable for so much. If you need so much, can you guys not put your heads together and get grant money to take care of what we need?
well, like I said, the fire department has gotten their classification where they can apply for some grants too. They can apply for-
Now, they can do it.
Larry, I'm gonna cut you off just for a minute. There's no guarantee on the grant side that we could do
Well,
anything.
I'm saying, can we look into that?
And we are, absolutely. The biggest problem is because we're funded through the township and because we're funded through the township and the town. We're not eligible for those grants through the township and the town.
Well,
We are eligible, no. We are eligible for the fire grants under a 501c3, which is one thing that our administration at Milton took care of and paid for out of our own pockets, a $600 fee to establish the Milton Firefighters Association, which is a 501c3 that can apply for grants and donate those things to the fire department. But as Chief Bartlett stated, the current presidential administration is working currently on eliminating a lot of these things. But the biggest problem that we're working with right now, when it comes to Washington Township and, you know, even the town and stuff like that, is we are we are expected to update and purchase new trucks under a 1984 tax levy. You see what I'm saying? There really hasn't been any increase in tax levies really in all those years. If you go back and look at the history of the township, there has been no increase. Now I want to ask everybody in here, could you continue to live on a 1984 wage in today's world? And that's what's being expected of the fire department, you know, is to kind of maintain and buy and everything else off a tax levy that has remained the same. Now, with that being said, Trustee Rich is absolutely correct. The growth is what builds that growth. And, you know, over the last census, we're down, I think it said like 43 residents, not residences, but residents. So we've had a decrease. But what I want to say is, when you go for an access tax levy, you can go for that access tax levy on the fact that we have been, I shouldn't say massively, but we have been considerably underfunded for XY number of years and apply for that access tax levy. And at that point in time, that is a possibility to get that. It's just like our cumulative fund. A lot of fire departments in this state of Indiana, I would say 85% of the fire departments are maxed out on their cumulative fire fund at 0.033. Okay, we set way below that. So, you know, as far as our cumulative fund, we're like $16,000 under what we could leave on the table. But it's neither here nor there. That's a discussion for us later on. But the grant side, we don't know what's going to happen with that. And we can't rely on the fact that we could potentially get a grant.
Okay,
So
so I got
you don't know if you don't try to get it.
I got a question.
But we are trying, Larry. That's the thing. We are.
Is anybody on the fire department filling out any form to collect money from the insurance companies when you go out on runs?
Yes, but we do the highway department billing, okay? And we have purchased a lot of new equipment for the fire department this year through our highway billing. One of the achievements that we've done is all the highway billing that we have done. I have brought in a total of $20,416 this year, but it has bought axes that we didn't have, New York hooks that we didn't have, pipe poles that were wore out, about to snap in half. I mean, wood pipe poles that were splintering, right? It's purchased those. It's purchased new saws for ventilation. It has,
So we're showing where
we are through the association.
Where the fire department is doing something for themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. But the association can't rely on itself for that. Okay, so this year we did $20,000 so far, but next year, that highway billing, that amount of accidents we have next year may be half of that. So that's not a guarantee. You see where when it comes to tax money, even though, like, you know, Trustee Rich said, we could potentially lose the township in 2 or 3 years. That to me is not necessarily, and I can understand where he's coming from when he says they're not willing to take out a loan. But, you know, they could potentially fund a loan, right? Or help pay part of that, even if it went through the town or wherever it went, right? So with that being said, even if they say they shut township government down in 3 years, okay? If we go out here today and we purchase a tanker, what do we still have? We still have a tanker, right? And what else do we still have? We still have an asset, right? We have something that is worth something. If something happens to township government, something happens to the town, if something happened and for God forbid, the fire department was shut down, you still have an asset that is worth what it's worth, that would bring money back and put that money back. We can't necessarily sit still in this situation, and because we got 1,000 gallons of water on our engine, right? We're going to roll out of here with one engine. We're going to expect mutual aid from other departments that you don't know what's going to happen. Whether they're going to get there, they're going to get there too late. I'm going to tell you right now, each hand line that we pull off an engine supplies 100 gallons of water a minute. That's 10 minutes of firefighting. If we've got a 50% involved house, and God forbid have a situation like they had in Rush County, you know, 6 weeks ago with a little boy in there, you know, we probably won't have enough water, and we can't draft off the tanker. It'll be a dump and go situation, and that takes time. You know how it is. That's 50 years that you've got on there. You know how this is. If we've got a properly operating tanker that's got a pump that can feed an engine, 2,500 gallons of water, that gives the fire department enough time to get inside that residence and save that life. Right now, once we spend that 1,000 gallons, unless there's other tankers on scene that is supplying us water and tender operations, guess what? We're limited because we can't go in there with potential flashover conditions at 11 to 1,500 degrees and get somebody out of there because we don't have any water to knock this down. And that's the biggest problem we've got. And of course, by law, there is a law that states that we have to, that proper and safe and efficient fire suppression is to be provided, but we can't help. It's like, board member Wampler said, this is years prior to Matt and I are now being handed the fight of getting this fixed, so it's not necessarily on us, but it's the prior years of, we went down there and I'm like, how did they have a functioning fire department over some things, and we've had a lot of things fixed, right? That. I've explained that to you. And we're doing the best that we can, it just takes that help, The only way we're guaranteed anything is from proper budgeting on both sides and that communication with the fire
I
department.
guess the only thing I gotta say is, has the township got any kind of money to help us get something fixed or whatever?
Well, that's a conversation I've gotta have with the town on what they've got available. And also talking with my board to say, hey,
Right, I
okay,
understand it, but will you do that for us? That's what I'm.
yeah, that's no problem. The township has always
Right.
helped fix equipment
I
down there.
just I don't like it when we ain't got nothing to fight a fire with right
But
now.
now you guys are only responsible for so much of that, aren't you?
Right, it's 50/50, ain't it?
Well, I have to respect the fact that, trustee Reese, I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm saying this correctly, you'll have to excuse me, it's not, I know it's not your majesty's, but these guys on the township board, it sounds to me like that, they have given us a significant, budget increase this year over what we had last, which is a good thing, and it's very much appreciated on Matt and I's side and needed on Matt and I's side. And it sounds like that they have, budgeted as much as they could. It's like this, you're not gonna go out here and drain your savings account just to go buy yourself a new truck, right? There's things that happen. We have to prepare for that. Mr. Wampler, I'm in the same shoes as you. I come from a farm family. I believe you may know some of them. My grandmother was a Caldwell. So with that being said, I know that history. As a farmer, you can't drain your account to go buy yourself a new combine or a new truck. What do you got left? You see what I'm saying? Something's going to happen. It always does. So I can appreciate the fact that they're taking that much to cumulative this year, and hopefully that communication amongst all of us. And when we have those talks, maybe we could have a combined talk between the town, the township, and the fire department, just for the fire department budget side. It don't, as far as the public side, that has nothing to do with Matt and I. It has nothing to do with our firefighters. But it's just like our turnout gear. It expires every 10 years. If we have a fireman go in that dies in the line of duty, which we've had a line of duty death this year. If we have someone that goes in and dies in the line of duty and expired gear, you know what that would do to us, to the township, to the town? We gotta have that. I mean, these aren't things that we're asking for. It's like Matt said, we don't want the brightest and the shiniest and I don't care if we need to hire somebody come in there with a buffer, and get the paint looking good again, as long as it's safe, it works the way it should work, and stuff like that. And I'm gonna tell you, with the tanker we looked at, it was probably worth close to $100,000 more than they were asking for it. And we were very fortunate to find that tanker, but it didn't work out because, it was just a quick thing, you know what I mean? But I do want to say and reiterate that I can personally, and I'm sure Matt would say the same thing, appreciate the increase that they've given us this year. So, and I don't want the town board members to think that we are necessarily bad guys. I know that we've pushed real hard for communication. Mr. Wampler, I know I've messaged you a few times, but it's simply, I think if you guys would sit down with Matt and I, you'd realize we're just really normal guys that come from career backgrounds that understand how this works. And you guys haven't had an administration down there like that before, because you guys are used to you know, guys that are from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't understand it like we understand it, you know, so, and it's no fault of theirs, it's just, you know, we've had that experience on that level. So, sorry to talk so much. Sorry.
Why, the remark was made a while ago, that I caught. Why are we working on such a old of a budget?
I can't answer that. I mean, like he said, it's a tax rate from 1984. I didn't even live in Indiana in 1984. I just took over the trustee position, you know, 5 years ago.
Okay,
You know,
why?
that's something I didn't know what that, you know, what it was.
You being the trustee for that period of a time, have you not tried to work to get our budget?
There was never
Money raised.
nobody ever questioned or asked for an increased budget. So why would I go
Yeah.
and express for that stuff if the previous fire departments had never came and say, hey, is there any way we can increase the tax levy to generate more fire income, you know, money for the fire department? You know, nobody's ever brought that up. So why would I even look into that when it's
Yeah,
not something that's been questioned?
reason I say that is, as I've been on the fire department and was actively more involved with the fire department. We never had too much of a problem getting money appropriated to us. And you can ask Donnie, because we were both there. We never did have too much of a big problem getting money for what we needed or what we wanted, or what we had to have.
Well, how long have you not been there, Larry? I'm just gonna ask that. You haven't been there how many years now? When did you retire out of there? The fire department.
I don't know, we're actively,
So,
I've not actively done anything for several years.
okay,
But somebody like Donnie and I, you know,
Right.
what do? We were voted on like lifetime members and stuff. We got our 50-year certificate
Right.
and all this stuff.
all right,
But what I'm saying is, in the past years, up until here for the last few years, we never did have too much of a big problem to come up with the money or get the money that we needed to fix a piece of equipment.
right. Well, here's what's going on right now, if I can reply back to you, and I wanna help them guys out with this. From 2020 to 2025. Say 2019, 2018, pre-COVID. You could buy a commercial engine, commercial crew cab engine like we've got down there right now for $225,000. That truck nowadays, and with 3 manufacturers controlling the whole entire fire apparatus situation, that particular engine down there right now is over $750,000.
You're
Brand new.
you're
So,
talking a new piece.
right, but with us having the old tax levy and what it requires to even repair apparatus nowadays, that makes it tougher, and we do have to watch our P's and Q's a little bit more. Our biggest concern right now is how do we get our own water to the township? What happens if Cambridge, and it does happen, we're volunteer departments, what happens if Cambridge don't have anybody to respond with a tanker? You know, or what happens if,
Well, I understand all.
you know, so then we're out here in this situation, or now all the electric vehicles that we have, these things burn for days and days and days. And the only way you can fight these fires is with, I mean, you more or less have to take a tank and submerge the vehicle. That's the only way you can fight them, and they off gas and give toxic gases where you have to evacuate areas within, you know, but if without a tanker in the township, if that happens, you know, that's our biggest issue right now. In repairs of trucks.
What you're talking about, Larry, back years ago, it didn't cost much. to
Yeah, it
repair
did
them.
cost, but we still had to get the
Well-
money to do it with.
Right, but I mean,
But this,
like I said, it didn't cost that much years ago.
And like I said, you know, you just don't tell them, oh, we want to increase our fire tax rate. You have to, present it. And that's the thing, you know, yeah, I can't do it for the 2026 budget, but I can do it for the 2027 budget, ask for an increase in the tax rate to generate more money for firefighting. And one of those, you know, they're gonna question, you know, why do you need the blah, 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 blah. Well, first of all, like he said, we're operating on a 1984 tax rate. And we have old equipment that we need to generate more money to replace old equipment. You know, and hopefully they will increase our tax rate. Who knows? I don't know.
Here's what I'm gonna hope, and I'm helping trustee Rich out with this. So, and one thing that I would hope from you guys is when it comes time to do that excess tax levy, get with Matt and I, because we have a plethora of experience in that aspect. And, but even if, say we did an increase in tax levy and everybody's taxes went up on average, I'm just gonna use $50 because it's easy, right? If everybody's taxes went up $50 a year, and we have the appropriate apparatus, the appropriate maintenance, like right now, we are meeting OSHA standards for a fire department, except for apparatus, okay? Once we get to that point and we can start replacing apparatus, get it the proper age, we can file for an ISO review for the township and the town. Once we do an ISO review, if we are maxed out right now at a 10. 10 is the worst number you can get in the insurance safety office, which means your guys are paying more homeowners insurance than you need to. So if we can replace these things and repair it, that's what I'm saying, you might pay $50 more a year in tax per household. But with that being said, when we get the things we need at the fire department, we can drive that ISO down to a 5 and take 60% of your homeowner's insurance costs and potentially decrease that by 30, 40, 50%. So if you guys are paying $600 a year just in the fire side of your homeowner's insurance, if we decrease that $200 by driving that ISO down, you spent $50 more in tax, but you ultimately saved $150 a year. Does that make sense? You know, so, you know, people just see tax increase, tax increase, tax increase. That's all they see. But from a fire administrative perspective, in all these years in the career side, when that goes up and the ISO comes down, the citizens actually save more money in the long run per year than they are right now. So that's another way to look at it too. I'm
Stay
sorry.
here all
I'm
night.
You guys can tell me to shut up.
I can wait. One thing I ask is can the township and the town get together and see what they can come up with? You know, if it's just enough right now to get something fixed so we can run it.
I just, like I said, though, the only thing that I would ask is that in these talks, that the fire department, you know, that at least the chief, deputy chief, you know, maybe a couple of officers, whatever, is involved in those conversations. That way, when they're talking about what they can do, we can inform them of something that we definitely need to help us go
Right.
that right direction.
And I understand.
You know, not just a, you know, I don't want a F-350 with a 2,500 gallon tank in the back of it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying they would do that. I'm just using that as an example.
Where's your budget at now as far as your current budget? What percentage you still have available? 10%? 30%?
It's probably, I don't know offhand what it is.
Evidently, you've got the numbers guys sitting back here. I don't deal well with vagaries, so let me be very specific. Could you tell us what the budget differed from last year to this year and what it is projected to increase next year for the fire department?
I don't have last year's budget, you know, none on hand. And next, I can't because there's a lot.
Was that under your responsibility?
Huh?
Was it under your responsibility? Last year's budget under your responsibility?
Yes.
I'm just saying, that's not an accusation, that's just a question.
And I've increased the budget every year for, you know, a little bit.
Okay.
You know, just, you know, enough with
So
what,
from this year to next year, the budget that everybody's talking about, we're looking forward. So how much does the budget change for the fire department from this year to next year?
that is something I can't answer right now because we don't know what's gonna happen with the House bill, with that stuff. You know, 2026, we're fine. But with the 2027 budget, there's some things, I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, just last night I seen on TV where, trying to think was it Fishers or one of them See, the state, when they come up, when they came up with a new formula for figuring tax rates. Or what your property taxes are gonna be. Well, initially. They used the old formula and they didn't use the new formula. When they went and recalculated, that city was losing over $3 million in tax revenue. And so that's what I mean. I can't say what the 2027 budget will look like until we know what's gonna happen tax wise.
I think my question was for 26.
Oh, that's, I can answer that for you.
Well, the 20
Yes, you started this meeting off, by the way, and again, I'm not.
Well, okay, here's one thing. On my cumulative fund. Last year, we had budgeted $2,500. This year, we are budgeting $85,000.
That's a very simple answer to my question.
Well, I thought you meant from 26 to 27.
That's the reason we're talking.
And that's like I said, and I can't answer nothing on what things will look like
And just as
that.
I've spent my entire life in corporate America, and now I've lived in Atlanta for 40 years, and now I live on a farm in Milton. So, you know, so it's a little bit of a shock for me. Is there any particular reason why we didn't start this meeting off with everybody getting a copy of the budget to look at?
Probably because I don't have those kind of things printed and block printed off. Because in the past, we have this hearing. And let's see, there's myself and usually two of my board members, that's it. So it's like, you know, for me to print off, 15, 20 copies of the budget that was submitted to the state, that's a waste of bunch of paper.
Well, it seemed to me that you read from 2 pages. And, if we could have, I don't know, shown it on a screen or handed a copy around or something, it would have certainly been a nice thing for everybody. And maybe we would have all been a little better informed. So again, please don't be offended. I'm just making an observation.
Well, again, I want to say that I am very appreciative, Mr. Rich, Mr. Wampler, of the increase, of the budget for this coming year. And hopefully, the DLGF will be more than happy to certify that, especially if we.
And like I said, from my meeting I had with my representative, going through the numbers, there should not be an issue that it will not be approved by the state.
Right.
What is that process? I mean, like, for township?
I will get a notification probably in November. I mean, that's usually when I get it.
I think November 1st is the end date for all that anyway, isn't it? Like the 1st of November or something?
Could be, like I said, I think that's when they have everything finalized.
Mhm.
But then, like I said, then whenever they send out that notice that,
Right.
But usually, like I said, when I have the meeting with my rep, he can tell me then that, the numbers are good, that, there wouldn't be no issue, shouldn't be no problem. And I've never had it come back to where they said, oh, no, you're gonna have to cut it some.
Right.
And that.
When you're talking to DLGF, they're pretty forthcoming of telling you yes, or you're gonna have a levy.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
when they tell you,
Or-
yeah, you're.
And if the numbers did not work, he would have told me then, you need to cut, X amount of dollars from the budget.
Right.
Like I said, they can, when I have my meeting with them, he can pretty well 100% tell me that budget will get approved.
Right.
I wanted to, I don't know what I missed, so sorry, but I wanted to throw one thing. When I walked in the door, I happened to see you had the TLH. THL, right? Right, I was wrong before that. There's a possibility, I won't know for another day or two, there's a possibility that one of the major parts of that, I might have found a used one that's in good condition. The company that we were at.
For the engine,
For the engine, right, for the main intake valve, I think the quote was like right around $3,800 for just that piece. I might have found a used one. He had to check. He said he was gonna check tomorrow or Thursday. He gonna figure out what day I'm in. The company we actually were looking at buying the tanker from over in Southern Illinois, he asked me, hey, he just reached out to me today. Hey, is there anything else you can think about? You know, yeah, he has a couple other trucks that might fit a bill. Sent me some links, and I just asked him, I said, hey, by any chance you have any 6-inch to 5-inch MIVs, which is the main intake valve? And he said he was gonna check tomorrow or Thursday and let me know. If we can find a used one, that would save potentially, again, I don't wanna say a number, but it could save some money, even $1,000 or $1,500. I've been scouring eBay and some of the other used companies, which is kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, because a lot of them want like PayPal or whatever, and town, of course, doesn't do that, but I can do it myself and get reimbursed. So I am looking at other avenues, so I apologize it ran out, but I did want to make that a point. And we're not talking a great savings, but could potentially be $1,000 or $2,000 savings if I can find a used MIV, which would fit fine for us. The MIV we had to take off that truck was not rebuildable. It's just so, it's old enough. It probably didn't come off that truck. It was probably taken off whatever that truck replaced. And the valve is bad, and they just didn't make the parts anymore to rebuild it. So just throwing that out there, we might be able to get that price of that engine 4 repair down a little bit. We know THL pretty well. We deal with them fairly exclusively. I think that we could even get that if he repaired it and split it between 2-year budgets if we needed to. I don't know what that looks like, but I know if we had to, I'm very confident that we could get and paid half of it this budget year and then half of it second week of January, third week of January, just to get the truck in and get it repaired before we get into, unfortunately, winter season where things freeze and break and we potentially have more problems. So again, I don't know what the other conversations were. The construction concern is more water load, so tankers. But like I said, we've resolved that a little bit internally. We built out a plan. I think even the day that Ken came down, we were writing on the whiteboard every tanker in the county and how many gallons they had. So we knew, depending on the size of the fire we had, who we'd be asking. Maybe over the little tankers, we'd skip over and just go for somebody that has big water. But again, Chief Gabbard and I finally just kind of finished having a conversation this afternoon. He works for the state full-time, has had some other stuff going on. I work 2 full-time jobs, so our connecting the dots isn't as easy, but it's helped having a few calls with them. Sometimes that opens those doors to conversations. So that should be in effect, I would imagine, that Cambridge will be auto-aid. And then they're working on the tech side. One of their assistant chiefs is on medical leave right now, but sorting out us getting access to their active also. So we're not auto-aid with them. We haven't been for several years. It's Centerville and Hagerstown, but we just don't know when they get called unless we listen to radios, which sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But he's going to work on getting us linked up with their active. And if we want to auto roll, head that way, he won't turn down any help. So we're putting some new girders in the bridge over there. Hopefully we can keep building some more concrete. I'm personally friendly with a majority of them that came from there. I don't have an issue with it. Some of that damage was done long before me and shortly before me, but here we are. So
If you'll find out if you can if you are able to get that part.
Yep.
And if that changes, let me know.
Yep.
And we will get you, I'll get an answer as quick as I can from my board. Yeah.
So,
and again, when we do the community night in October, we're getting a lot of feedback from that. We'd love to at least have you guys down for a little bit of it. See some people.
What is the date on that?
It's October 25th. Sheriff's Department's bringing some of their horses out. There's Reed's gonna be there set up. I mean, we're gonna do a movie night for the kids. We paid for whoever knew you had to have a license to watch a movie in the park with kids, but you have to have a license to do this now from the recording studios. So we've secured that and have that all set up. We'll have some food and snacks and popcorn and such. And if it's a rain day, if it's crappy out, we're just gonna do it all inside. And then we also got the email with the insurance money. We did get right around 20,000. We had to pay 3,500 of it back for the rest or the mold remediation. So we're working on some options there. I've only got one solid quote right now. I'm working on a couple others, just nobody's, a lot of the people that we were reaching out to, stayed cost effective, were already out in the fields, which I respect that. So just kind of playing that game with getting people, same with trying to get a hold of the Amish to be able to come look at the rotted off.
So that's what I was gonna ask you.
It's not exactly easy.
If you talk to any of the Amish,
We're working through that process. It's a slow process, but we're getting there.
So if you're here on Saturday or something, they've been working down there at their property, Samuel King.
What?
And I can let you know that if you care, I'll share your.
We'll figure that out here in a little bit. I'll let you know. We gotta divvy up some of the stuff, but
I see you a lot. So a lot of conversations are getting ready to happen.
It's like I said just a little bit ago, number one, I appreciate the budget increase this year. I'm sure Matt does too. And
I've been here, so I don't know what's up. I'll get caught up.
The biggest thing with us is in the best thing for a fire department on any level is the communication between the township and the fire department and the town board and the. If there's no communication, I think it's out here, it's kind of the new has a harder time showing up and the old has a harder time going away. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of that in the past was, the townships and stuff like that were very used to just handling things and just saying, here's what you got for the year, and stuff like that, which is nobody here's fault, but the times have changed very drastically. And, I think that's open communication and any of the board members, for the township's ability to come to the fire department anytime they want to, every Monday night, 7 o'clock, we're there, can come down and chat with Chief or myself or whoever, that's in there. And same way for, you, Mr. Rish, and the town board is well aware of that as well.
And we'll keep that updated. I mean, we've discussed internally, maybe changing some of our training hours in the next year because we're not getting as much participation on some Monday nights as I think we would like on a Saturday or Sunday. It seems like whenever we do a Sunday training, we have an abundance of people, and on Monday nights we have 4. So almost too much. A lot of departments I know in a couple other counties have gone to like 2 Monday nights a month and then maybe one Saturday or Sunday for 4 or 5 hours. We actually accomplish more. So we may look at something like that, but we'll always we're very transparent, and I'll keep everybody. I don't expect a response every time, but if it's something critical, I'm okay with haven't made a decision yet, and I'm good. I understand. I understand life happens. Everybody has a million things going on. I automatically assume when I get nothing that maybe I haven't gotten it. And we've had email problems galore here, internet problems. I don't have internet for random periods of time, sometimes days. But sometimes I assume that it went to Never Land, which we do use Gmail at the department, so sometimes we do end up in people's spam. So we do appreciate everything, and we want to continue to be Milton, Washington Township Fire Department, and we've really started to rebuild and take that forward to where it was left maybe a few administrations ago, and want to keep going forward.
I think Yogi would be proud for those that know Yogi.
Yeah.
Yogi, I think he would be extremely proud of what's going on down there right now.
You're not than just the firemen down there and having parties in the
Yeah, we don't have any of that
building and
crap.
having whoopee and
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
all that good stuff.
It doesn't have it. We are very much a volunteer department, but we also understand too, Matt and I both, that just because we're a volunteer fire department doesn't mean that we are exempt.
Yeah.
From we are held to the same standard as a career department will be held at. They don't have a set of volunteer department laws and a set of career department laws. It's fire department laws, and the only difference between us and them is the fact that we volunteer our time to do this for the community.
And that's some of what we've been going out for grants for, And now that we've got the 501c3 dialed in, we're just waiting for it to update on the IRS side is to be able to go for more grants. A lot of the big grants are in question right now. It's gonna be easier to grab the low lying fruit, $3,000, $6,000 grants, maybe $10,000 grants to get some of that equipment that's needed so that we can focus the budget on repair/replacement. I mean, we got 400 feet. Remember the hose quote I sent you guys a couple weeks ago? We were able to get 400 feet of it donated. Doesn't sound like much, but it's a couple $1,000, you know, I mean, it's used, but it'll serve our world. So we're trying to not have to come hit the checkbook every time, but I think everybody has other stuff to do tonight. I can respect that this meeting went longer than anybody planned probably, or wanted. We appreciate everything and the time.
Does anyone else have any other questions, comments about the budget?
I missed what you're saying. I was saving lives.
We'll check your temperature, Carol. Nobody has anything else? We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
My granddaughter already thrilled. Saying one thing.
Appreciate it.